cold open, the wife who took an empire. She was not supposed to rule Russia. She was not Russian. She had no sacred claim to the throne. No ancient bloodline powerful enough to protect her. No army waiting for her command. She arrived as a teenage foreign princess, sent into a frozen empire to marry a man she did not love. A man who would one day become emperor. A man the court mocked. A man the army doubted. A man Russia feared might destroy everything. Her job was simple: be quiet, be useful, give Russia an heir, and disappear behind her husband's crown. But Catherine was watching. She watched the court. She watched the soldiers. She watched her husband fail. And she learned the most dangerous truth in imperial politics. A throne does not always belong to the person born closest to it. It belongs to the person bold enough to take it. She was underestimated as a foreign girl. Loved when she learned to become Russian. Feared when she became more powerful than her husband. Betrayed by the marriage that was supposed to protect her. And remembered as one of the most powerful women Europe had ever seen. Catherine did not inherit Russia. She studied it. She seduced it. She survived it. And then, she took it. Welcome to Behind the Throne. This is the story of Catherine the Great, the empress who took a throne that was never hers. Chapter 1: The girl Russia did not want. Before she was Catherine the Great, before Europe feared her name, before generals marched under her command, before philosophers wrote to her, before lovers, ministers, soldiers, and enemies circled her like planets around the sun, she was a girl named Sophie, a minor German princess, not rich enough to be powerful, not important enough to be feared, not born into a dynasty that could command Europe. She was not raised to rule an empire. She was raised to survive courts. And that may have been more useful, because European courts were not gentle places. They were rooms full of smiles that meant nothing, promises that changed with the wind, marriages arranged like treaties, children used like political currency, and girls taught early that their future might be decided by men who never asked what they wanted. Sophie's great opportunity came from Russia. Empress Elizabeth needed a bride for her nephew and heir, Peter. Peter would one day inherit the Russian throne, and Sophie was chosen to marry him. On paper, it was a miracle. A minor princess could become the wife of a future emperor. But miracles in royal families usually come with chains. To enter Russia, Sophie had to change almost everything. Her country, her language, her religion, her name. She converted to Orthodoxy and became Catherine. But changing a name is easy. Changing how an empire sees you is not. To many in Russia, she was still foreign. A German girl in a Russian court. A bride chosen for politics. A young woman surrounded by people waiting to see whether she would fail. And failure was dangerous. Because if Catherine could not become useful, Russia could discard her. So she made herself useful. She learned Russian. She studied Orthodox customs. She watched how people bowed. How they lied, how they flattered, how they betrayed. She understood something her future husband did not. Russia did not want to be ruled by someone who looked down on it. Russia wanted devotion, or at least the perfect performance of devotion. And Catherine was brilliant at performance. She did not arrive as the ruler Russia wanted, but she began becoming the ruler Russia could one day accept. That was her first victory, not a battle, not a coup. A transformation. The German girl learned how to become more Russian than the man born to rule Russia. Chapter 2: The marriage that became a prison. Catherine's marriage to Peter was not a love story. It was a political arrangement. And almost immediately it became a trap. Peter was immature, unpopular, unstable in the eyes of many at court. He admired Prussia more than Russia. He cared little for the image expected of a future Russian emperor. And Catherine quickly understood the nightmare of her position. Her husband was supposed to be her protection. Instead, he became her weakness. In a royal marriage, a wife's future often depends on her husband's success. If he rises, she rises. If he falls, she may fall with him. But what happens when the husband is the danger? Catherine watched Peter alienate people he needed. She watched courtiers whisper. She watched soldiers doubt him. She watched powerful people laugh behind closed doors. And she learned a brutal lesson. If Peter became emperor and failed, she might be destroyed with him. But Catherine was not passive. She read. She studied. She built discipline. She cultivated charm. She learned who mattered. She learned who could be trusted. And more importantly, who wanted something. Because politics is rarely built on loyalty. It is built on need. Catherine needed protection. Others needed access. Some needed influence. Some needed money. Some needed a future that Peter could not give them. And slowly, Catherine became a center of gravity. Not officially, not openly, but quietly. People came to her. They spoke to her. They watched her. They began to compare her with Peter. And the comparison was dangerous. Peter was heir by blood. But Catherine looked more like a ruler. That should have terrified her. Because in a monarchy, being admired more than the heir can become a death sentence. But Catherine understood the risk. And she kept building. She smiled when she needed to, stayed silent when silence was safer, played the loyal wife in public, and prepared herself in private. Because by then, she had learned the rule every powerful woman in history eventually learns. If the world gives you no official power, you must become powerful unofficially. Chapter 3. The court learned her name. Catherine's greatest weapon was not beauty. It was not seduction. It was not luck. It was patience. She understood that power is not only taken in one dramatic moment. Sometimes power is built through years of being underestimated. Through conversations people forget. Through favors given at the right time. Through the ability to make others feel seen, valued, and useful. Catherine learned the Russian court like a map. She knew the factions, the jealousies, the ambitions, the fears. She knew which people loved Russia, which loved money, which loved influence, and which simply wanted to survive. She also understood image. Peter often seemed careless with it. Catherine was not. She presented herself as intelligent, devout, Russian, serious, elegant, controlled. She read Enlightenment thinkers. She wrote. She formed opinions about law, power, education, and reform. She wanted to be seen not only as a wife, but as a mind. That mattered, because the court did not need another decorative princess. It needed someone who looked capable of holding a collapsing room together. Catherine became that person. But she also became something more dangerous, desirable to allies, useful to factions, possible alternative. And alternatives are dangerous in monarchies, especially when the official heir is disliked. The more Peter failed to inspire confidence, the more Catherine's quiet strength mattered. She was not yet empress, but she was becoming a possibility. And history often turns on that word. Possibility. A woman who should have been powerless became possible. A foreign bride became possible. A wife became possible. A rival became possible. And once people can imagine you on the throne is never safe again. Chapter 4. The heir, the rumors, and the dangerous question. In a royal marriage, producing an heir is not private. It is political. Catherine's body was not treated as her own future. It was treated as Russia's future. The court needed a child. The dynasty needed continuity. The empire needed a reason to keep her. And after years of pressure, Catherine gave birth to a son, Paul. But even his birth did not bring peace. It brought rumors. Whispers spread about Paul's paternity. Was he truly Peter's son? Or was he the child of one of Catherine's lovers? History still debates the question. But in Catherine's world, the truth may have mattered less than the danger of the rumor. Because rumor is one of the most powerful weapons in a palace. It does not need proof. It only needs repetition. A woman's reputation could be used against her. Her love life could become politics. Her motherhood could become suspicion. Her child could become both protection and threat. Paul's birth gave Catherine value, but it did not give her security. The child was taken largely into Empress Elizabeth's control. Catherine had produced the heir, But she did not fully control him. That was the cruelty of dynastic motherhood. A woman could risk everything to give birth to the future, and then watch others take that future from her arms. Catherine learned again that in Imperial Russia, nothing belonged to her simply because she had earned it. Not her marriage, not her reputation, not even her son. So she did what she had always done. She adapted. She buried the pain. She sharpened the mask. And she kept watching, because Peter was moving closer to the throne. And when he became emperor, Catherine would face the most dangerous moment of her life. Chapter 5: Peter becomes emperor. In 1762, Empress Elizabeth died. Peter became emperor, and Catherine became empress consort. But she was not safe, not even close. Peter now had the crown, the title, the authority, the power to reward, the power to punish, and possibly the power to remove Catherine. His reign began badly. Many in Russia distrusted him. He admired Frederick the Great of Prussia and made decisions that angered powerful Russian interests. He offended soldiers. He unsettled the church. He alienated nobles. And he seemed to forget that ruling Russia required more than wearing Russia's crown. Catherine saw the danger immediately. Peter was not simply unpopular. He was becoming politically vulnerable, and Catherine was tied to him. If he fell, she could fall too. If he turned against her, she could lose everything. If he replaced her, imprisoned her, or pushed her aside, she might vanish from history as another discarded royal wife. That was the moment Catherine's survival became inseparable from action. She could wait and hope Peter would become wiser. She could trust a husband who did not protect her. She could surrender to whatever future he chose. Or she could move first. And Catherine had not spent years studying power just to become its victim. The court was restless. The guards were restless. The church was uneasy. The nobility was uncertain. Russia was waiting for someone to act. And Catherine understood something Peter did not. A ruler does not lose power only when enemies defeat him. A ruler loses power when the people around him stop believing he should have it. Peter had the throne, but Catherine had the momentum. And in politics, momentum can be more dangerous than blood. Chapter 6: The coup that changed Russia. The coup came fast. Catherine moved with allies, especially among the guards. She did not march into history as a helpless wife. She rode into it as a claimant, a woman taking control before control was taken from her. Imagine the scene: a foreign-born woman in Russian dress, facing soldiers, crossing the line between obedience and rebellion. Every step could have ended in disaster. If the guards refused her, she was finished. If Peter reacted quickly, she was finished. If the court hesitated too long, she was finished. But Catherine understood theater. Power must be real, but it must also be seen. She presented herself not as an ambitious wife stealing a crown, but as the protector of Russia, the woman saving the empire from a ruler who did not understand it. The message was clear: Peter may have been born to rule, but Catherine had become worthy of ruling. The guards supported her. The church blessed her. The machinery of power shifted. Peter was forced to abdicate, and suddenly the foreign bride had become Catherine too, Empress of Russia. It was an astonishing reversal. A woman brought to Russia for marriage had taken the throne from her own husband. But the story did not end there, because Peter soon died under suspicious circumstances. Officially, explanations were given, but suspicion followed Catherine for the rest of her life. Did she order it? Did she allow it? Did she know? History cannot reduce the answer to a simple scene. But politically, the result was clear. Peter was gone. Catherine remained. And the woman who had taken a throne that was never hers now had to prove she could keep it. Because stealing power is one thing. Ruling with it is another. Chapter 7: The Empress Who Refused to be a Puppet. Many people might have expected Catherine to be controlled. By nobles, by lovers, by generals, by the men who helped put her on the throne. They were wrong. Catherine understood gratitude, but she also understood danger. A ruler who owes too much can become a prisoner of the people who helped them rise. So Catherine did what every strong ruler must do. She rewarded, balanced, watched, used, and refused to become anyone's puppet. Her reign became one of the most important in Russian history. She expanded the empire, strengthened Russian influence in Europe, supported arts, education, and culture, corresponded with Enlightenment thinkers, built an image of herself as a philosopher-empress. But beneath the polished image was hard power. Catherine knew how to use men, not only as lovers, as instruments, advisors, generals, favorites, diplomats, tools of rule. Some loved her, some feared her, some thought they could control her. Most learned they could not. That is what made Catherine dangerous. She did not reject the male world of power. She entered it, learned its language, and made it serve her. Her relationships became legendary. Her lovers became part of her political myth. But reducing Catherine to romance is the same mistake history often makes with powerful women. When a man uses relationships, it is strategy. When a woman does it, it becomes scandal. Catherine's private life fascinated Europe, but her public power changed it. She was not great because men loved her. She was great because men served her ambition, and Russia grew under her rule. But every empire built upward casts a shadow downward, and Catherine's shadow would become darker. Chapter 8: Glory, Blood, and the Price of Greatness. Catherine wanted to be remembered as enlightened, a ruler of reason, culture, law, progress. But empires are not built by ideas alone. They are built by force. Under Catherine, Russia expanded dramatically. Territories were gained. Influence spread. Poland was partitioned. The Black Sea became central to Russian ambition. Crimea was annexed. Russia moved closer to becoming one of the dominant powers of Europe. To admirers, Catherine was brilliant. To enemies, she was dangerous. To Russia's elite, she was often magnificent. But to those crushed under imperial expansion, her greatness had another meaning. This is the contradiction at the heart of Catherine. She could speak the language of enlightenment while ruling an autocratic empire. She could write about law and civilization while preserving serfdom. She could present herself as a mother of the nation while crushing rebellion with terrifying force. The Pugachev rebellion showed her the danger beneath the surface. A massive uprising shook the empire. It reminded Catherine that the Russia she ruled was not only palaces, salons, and polished letters. It was peasants, soldiers, Cossacks, serfs, hunger, anger, and fear. Catherine survived it, but it changed the tone of her rule. The empress who had taken power through rebellion now understood rebellion as an existential threat. She became more cautious, more severe, more determined to preserve order. That is the price of taking a throne. Once you take power, you spend the rest of your life fearing someone else will do the same. Catherine had stolen an empire. Now she had to keep it from being stolen from her. Chapter 9: Loved, Feared, Betrayed, Remembered. Catherine lived long enough to become a legend. But legends are dangerous. They simplify, they exaggerate, they punish, especially when the legend is a woman with power. Europe could admire Catherine, but it also mocked her. It whispered about her lovers, her ambition, her appetite for control, her foreign birth, her marriage, her husband's death, her son's resentment, her body, her private life. Powerful men are often remembered for conquest. Powerful women are often remembered for scandal. Catherine received both. She was admired as a ruler, feared as an empress, loved by favorites, betrayed by rumors, and remembered through stories written by people who could not decide whether to worship her or shame her. Her relationship with her son Paul remained troubled. He represented the dynasty she had entered, the bloodline she had not been born into, the heir she had produced, but never fully trusted. In that tension, Catherine's story becomes deeply human. She took a throne that was not hers. But once she had it, she could never fully relax. Because legitimacy can be declared, can be crowned, can be celebrated. But when you know you took power by force, You also know power can be taken from you. Catherine spent her life proving she deserved Russia. And perhaps that is why she ruled so fiercely. She had to be more Russian than the Russians who doubted her. More powerful than the men who dismissed her. More disciplined than the husband who failed her. More memorable than the bloodline that tried to define her. She entered Russia as a bride. But she refused to remain an accessory. She became the empire. Final chapter, was Catherine a usurper or a genius? So who was Catherine the Great? Was she a usurper? Yes. She took a throne that legally belonged to her husband. Was she ruthless? Absolutely. She understood that mercy could be dangerous when surrounded by rivals. Was she a hypocrite? Sometimes. She spoke of enlightenment while ruling through autocracy. Was she brilliant? Without question. Because Catherine achieved what almost no one expected. A foreign girl entered Russia with nothing secure except her intelligence. She survived a disastrous marriage, outmaneuvered a weak emperor, won the support of soldiers, nobles, and churchmen, took power in a coup, survived scandal, ruled for decades, expanded an empire, and forced Europe to treat her not as a wife, not as a foreign princess, not as a woman behind a man, but as a sovereign in her own right. That is why her story belongs in this playlist. She was underestimated, because she was foreign, feared, because she became powerful, loved, because she knew how to inspire devotion, betrayed, by rumors, by marriage, by the court that watched her every move, and remembered, because she changed the course of history. Catherine did not wait for permission. She did not accept the role written for her. She did not remain beside the throne. She took it, and once she had it, she made the world say her name with both admiration and fear, because behind every throne lies a story history never dared to tell. And Catherine the Great's story is one of the most dangerous truths of power. Sometimes the person born furthest from the throne is the one most willing to do whatever it takes to claim it. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Behind the Throne, where history's greatest rulers reveal their darkest secrets. Next, we uncover the story of another woman who changed history through power, love, and survival. And Boleyn, the woman who changed England and paid with her life.